So we're continuing part two in marketing management chapter two. As I mentioned before, we're not going to really talk a lot about NAFTA because it no longer really exists. Mr. Trump pretty much got rid of that, and we need to move on from there. So multinational, quickly, slide 12. Multinational regional market zones consist of groups of countries that create formal relationships for mutual economic benefit. And again, NAFTA obviously did not benefit America, and of course it was nixed through lower tariffs and reduced trade barriers. For example, NAFTA and the EU, and again, NAFTA is no longer around. They usually form as a result of four forces: economic factors, geographic proximity, meaning the closeness, and political factors and cultural similarities. All right. So by economic, we talk about enlarging the trading area and creating a market zone. Each country benefits economically, and the market zone has more power in the global marketplace as a large contender. Now, what NAFTA was supposed to do was that each country in NAFTA was supposed to make what it's best at, and then everyone in that agreement was supposed to share, but it unfortunately did not happen that way. Geographic proximity, transportation, and communication networks are more likely to connect countries close to one another, making it easier to facilitate market zone activities. Other issues such as immigration also tend to be handled more efficiently when distance between partners is minimized. And we have this problem now with Mexico with immigration. The Mexican government is definitely cooperating. Our biggest problem is the gangs that are just proliferating our cities, and these gangs are vicious, and nobody wants gangs like this to be around. We want people that are honest and hardworking. Unfortunately, many times the gangs kind of mix themselves up with other people who want to get in as refugees, and it's a very, very difficult situation. I definitely don't have a solution to it, and nor do I want to be involved with it because it's beyond my pay grade. I wouldn't even know how to start thinking about it. Political, closely related to increased economic power, is increased political clout, particularly as smaller countries form broad political alliances. A prerequisite for effective political alliances amongst countries is general agreement on governmental policies. Countries with widely disparate political structures find it difficult to accommodate those differences in a political alliance. So it's unlikely you'll see America and China and North Korea getting involved in a political alliance. Cultural similarities, such as sharing a shared language among alliance partners, also facilitates market zones. I mean, in a sense, you have that between America and Canada. It's the same language. That also helps. Here, top four regionals. You've got Mercosur, the most powerful market zone in South America, was inaugurated in 1995 and includes the economies of South America, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay, with over 200 million people and combined GDP of more than 1 trillion. It is currently the world's third largest free trade area in the world. You have ASEAN, which is Association of South Asian Nations, was founded in 1967, comprised of 10 countries in what is known as the Pacific Rim: Brunei, Darussalam, not Jerusalem, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. After the 1997-98 Asian financial crisis, the group added China, Japan, and South Korea. While the relationship with these plus 3 countries are less developed than the full member countries, the combined economic activity of all participants makes ASEAN a powerful global force. Europe, you have the EU.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What's like the point of these groups? Just like in simply, what do they do
They
together?
group together. Think of it this way. Imagine if you want to do business with someone. Don't you want to do business with someone that's a powerful business entity, or you want to do something with here and there and here and there? These countries, many of them are so poor. The only way that they're going to be able to be a global contender is if they merge together, merge their business activities together, so that they're a regional powerhouse as opposed to being a small country. You know, Singapore, not Singapore, but let's look at Indonesia. Indonesia is a lot of poverty, lots of poverty. So on its own, it can't really be a global contender. It has to merge together with these other countries to share the wealth and to share their political clout together and be recognized, as opposed to just being on your own. Now, with the addition of China, Japan, and South Korea, those are big hitters. China, listen, even though they've done a lot of bad to the world, they're still a powerful, monstrous, huge economy. Japan is very powerful. South Korea, forget about it. I mean, Samsung maybe we'll watch a video on Samsung. Samsung is tremendous, and I think they make up something like, I don't know, 15 or 10% of the GDP in South Korea, which is a fully developed country. I'm not talking about North Korea. North Korea is still, where it is, and hopefully one day they'll be free of that crazy guy, Rocket Man. Hopefully they'll have a normal leadership where they're not throwing their people into concentration camps. I mean, it's barbaric what they do there. Yes, I'm sorry. Did I answer your question, or you still have more to ask?
You did. I just wondering what's the benefit? Why would China, Japan, and South Korea want to join? Why would they want to be part of this?
Because there's money to be made. There is money to be made. There are backdoor channels. There's money being made. There are people that are benefiting. I mean, why is it that America, does so much production in these countries? Again, look at the labels in your clothing. You'll see stuff made in Laos. You'll see stuff made in Thailand. There's stuff made in Vietnam. The clothing that I'm wearing now, this shirt, is definitely not made in America. I don't know where it's made. I'm not going to start looking. I'm going to have somebody look at the label, but it's definitely not American made. Hopefully, one day will be. Europe, you have what we call the most successful regional market zone. I guess that's debatable. It's also known as one of the oldest, founded more than 50 years ago. 6 countries, Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, and Netherlands, and West Germany. With the Treaty of Rome, the EU now includes 28 countries spanning all of Europe. One of the most difficult challenges for many member states is meeting targeted government spending and total debt limits. The EU has become one of the most dominant economic entities in the world. The economic output is exceeded only by the US, and its currency, the euro, is one of the leading world currencies. It's still there, but I mean, Britain definitely exited. They have the pound. European Union's influence extends far beyond economics because member countries grant the EU significant political and social power to enact laws, create taxes, and exert tremendous social influences in the lives of citizens. If you had the EU before the Nazis came to power, it would have been impossible for the Nazis to have taken power. There just would have been too much political and economic clout, and they would have stopped them. But again, it's easy to look at things in hindsight. In the Americas, again, NAFTA is dead, so I'm not even going to spend time talking on that. It's a waste of time. It's like ancient history. So now you've got to select the global market, decide which countries to enter. Can be high risk, as poor decisions lead to high costs and poor long-term investment. You have one of the main problems is political stability. Let's say you wanted to go into a country, Africa, have so many problems. A poor continent is war-torn. There are warlords taking over. At any given time, there are dozens of battles and wars and ethnic cleansing. I mean, it's a disaster. It is a travesty of how many horrible things are done in Africa. People killing each other. It's so sad. You just want to cry. You see those pictures of those poor kids with their bloated bellies, starving to death, dying there. It should bring anybody to tears. When you want to enter into Africa to make business, you got to be careful. Or even countries in Asia, or in the Middle East. Look at countries that are torn up by war. You can get a war anywhere. But at the same time, all of a sudden now you're having treaties. You have the Arab Emirates. You have other countries that are looking to make peace with Israel. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing thing. Identify selection criteria. View the competition. See where others are going. If others are going there and they're successful, it's worth going there, looking at it. Target. You look at the target market size, the market that you want to target with your product or service, and the growth rate. What is the size of investment there? How long will it take to become more profitable there? And when others have done it, it's easier. You look to see how others have done, and then you can compare yourself. Company review. Does the company have the personnel, managerial, and financial resources to enter the market? And this is something that needs to happen. Just because others are doing it doesn't mean that you should follow suit. You need to make sure that you have what you need in order to get things done. If you lack the resources, then you're wasting your time. I'm not going to read the bottom on every single one. If I feel that something needs to be clarified, then I will. As I mentioned before, you have access to all these slides, and you can look at them, in more detail after class. Here we have key company characteristics in global market expansion, and this is pretty standard. You have the philosophy, the products, management, marketing skills, financial limitations or not. Or the organization, is it capable of going global? The management style, it has to change in a global perspective. It can't be centralized, too centralized. You need to give people latitude. And of course, you got to look at your resources. develop global market strategies, exporting. And this is huge. Now, with exporting, you run the risk of creating a trade war. Back in the 80s, and I believe even in the 90s, you had massive trade wars between Japan and America. The economy was in a lot of trouble at times because of that. So exporting requires minimal investment and risk, but there is a risk. The risk is the tariff on the country that you're exporting to. Again, you have to have good relationships. 10% of all global economy activity is done through exports. The internet has increased both domestic and international sales through the use of credit cards and other payment systems, plus global delivery systems like UPS, DHL. Amazon has gone global, and Amazon is going to, believe it or not, probably eclipse FedEx and UPS one day with its own delivery. It's gonna happen. I could totally see Amazon doing crazy things. Jeff Bezos has a appetite for success that is insatiable. I could totally see him doing some amazing things in that respect. Exporters provide expertise in global shipping. Distributors know local market conditions best. So you need to, when you're dealing with going into a global market, you're going to lean heavily on distributors. And direct sales force is expensive but needed with technology or high-end industry products. But in certain countries, you get a bargain, like in India. Why does everybody run to India? Because India has a very, very large population. I believe I saw statistics like about 10 or so years ago. Maybe it was like 40% of Indian college students are going for engineering. So they're super smart people, and you can get them on the cheap, so to speak. So as you pay somebody here $100,000, you can get the same guy in India for 35 or 40, and they're producing the same quality of work. And that's a problem. We need to find a way of making America profitable, make America look like a place to go to. And that's why cutting corporate taxes is so important. Let's just look at a couple of these terms. Exporter and distributors. The next level of exporting involves having country representation, which can take several forms. Exporters are international market specialists that help companies by acting as the export marketing department. They generally do not have much contact with the company, but exporters provide a valuable service with their knowledge of policies and procedures for shipping, which is invaluable. How do you know what you're allowed to send? Like in America, when you ship stuff, go to the post office. They're going to ask you a million questions. Does it have this? Does it have that? Is it a dangerous fluid? Is it a dangerous solid? You have to declare this and declare that. And many countries have so much red tape. You need to have somebody boots on the ground that know what they're doing. Distributors represent the company and often many others in foreign markets. These organizations become the face of the company in that country, servicing customers, selling products, and receiving payments. In many cases, they take title to the goods and then resell them. And it's good when they take title because they take the responsibility off of your back. Let's move to the next slide. Market entry strategies. You have contractual agreements or non-equity relationships with other companies, often in the target country. Just to go on the bottom, contractual agreements allow a company to expand participation in the market by creating enduring non-equity relationships with another company, often a local company in the market. Most often, these agreements transmit something of value, such as technology, a trademark, a patent, or a unique manufacturing process in return for financial compensation in the form of licensing fee or percentage of sales. So it's kind of hard to say in a sense, it's non-equity. You're not really getting equity in the company, but there is a trade-off. You are getting a percentage. You are getting licensing, and that's the next term. Licensing, basically, a company chooses to license when local partnerships are required by law. Legal restrictions prohibit direct importing of the product, or the company's limited financial resources limit more activity, foreign participation. Companies seeking to establish a greater presence license their product in that other country. They give it away. They kind of allow another company to use their trademark, to use their patent, and they will effectively do it for them. So it's kind of like, Sunkist does it here in America. Sunkist will give their name, and you'll have Sunkist the soda, Sunkist the orange juice, Sunkist oranges, and they'll use that trademark or that name because it's a well-known entity. Now, franchising is like McDonald's, like you own a franchise. The main company allows you to own one of their establishments, and you could do that in an international or in a global fashion. The beauty of franchising is you get a lot of help from the mothership. So, but franchising as a global market entry strategy really took off in the 90s and has been the first point of entry for many retailers looking to expand. And we mentioned McDonald's, Burger King, KFC. Nearly two-thirds of McDonald's restaurants are outside the U.S., combining low capital investments, rapid expansion, and opportunities and local market expertise. Franchising offers many advantages as market entry strategy. However, there are also challenges. Worldwide consumer tastes vary significantly, and franchises need sufficient resources and need that support. And they will also need training. And McDonald's is very good at that. They support their franchises a lot. Strategic alliances. And a lot of this information you're going to see spread out in other marketing courses. Especially, you'll see this at the end when you come to business policy. Many of these concepts will come up again. Strategic alliances spread risk of foreign investment among partners. For example, they dominate the airline industry with oneworld, SkyTeam, and Star. We have alliances of multiple airlines getting together and helping each other out. International joint ventures allow companies to enter markets that will be closed because of legal restrictions. They are formed by two or more companies that share management duties in a defined structure and also hold equal equity positions within the company, and they cannot be formed by individuals. So again, there's a lot of politics, a lot of finagling. Do I want to use the word bribery? Possible. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But again, international joint ventures, when companies get together and they partner, there's a lot of money to be made. And there are joint ventures that happen here in America as well. Many times you'll have a joint venture, especially in military contracts. Two competing companies will get together and bid together on a contract because they can't do it on their own. It just costs too much money, so they kind of piggyback on each other's expertise. Market entry strategies. Direct foreign investment is the riskiest strategy, but it offers potential for long-term growth. The following factors are important to consider: timing, the legal issues, understanding the legal environment in the foreign country, the cost of transaction, how much it's going to cost, technology transfer, and the country that you're transferring the technology has to be a country that has the ability to accept that technology. It can't be a country that is completely bereft of technology, one of these like desert places. They need to have some sort of infrastructure. There's also an element of product differentiation that has to be addressed. It's very hard to standardize many products. Some products, maybe like bleach or a Windex, to some extent can be standardized, but other products like clothing, for example, clothing is different. I mean, you have to make clothing specific to the region. And marketing communication barriers. And again, those are political issues. And when you have the right people in the right places who are able to press the right buttons and make people, open doors, then you're successful. And that's why companies get involved with direct foreign investment, because they have the people on the ground that could do it for them. So let's look at timing. There's issues of unknown political or social events. Sometimes the timing is wrong. There are legal issues, growing complexity of international contracts, asset protection, transaction costs, production and other costs stated in various currencies. Is there inflation in that country? That could also impact things. Technology transfer. Key technologies are more easily copied in foreign markets, but you also have to have the wherewithal to do it. And China is great at copying things. Product differentiation, differentiating a product without increasing costs, which is a big challenge. How could you have product differentiation without increasing cost? That's almost an impossibility. And marketing communication barriers. Local market practices vary a great deal. There are certain strictures, like in Germany, you can't market at certain times of the day on TV because kids are up watching TV. So you have to, they have very strict guidelines. So again, that marketing communication barrier is really a part of the legal issues that are there. Organizational structure choice. Basically, decision-making authority becomes more complicated with added layers of authority and differences in global time zones. Clearly defined protocols for decision-making are needed. There has to be some level of standardization. But again, you also have to look at the degree of centralization. It affects resource allocation and personnel. If you're too centralized, you're basically choking yourself. And in a fast-paced global market, being super centralized is not so smart, in my opinion. So we have global product lines works for firms with a broad, diverse range of products. For example, Siemens makes imaging machines and all kinds of things like that. You could do it geographically, build autonomous regional organizations that work well when local government relationships are critical. For example, Halliburton. Halliburton does all kinds of, like, I think Halliburton is involved with food for the military. And a matrix structure is a hybrid of the first two and is used in most global firms. In other words, it's a merge between geographic and global. In a geographic region, as I mentioned, you'll have a North American branch, a European branch. You may have in North America, you may have middle, you may have the central, the mountain zone. You may have Pacific. You may have Northeastern. You may have the South. Different ways of doing it, and you could do the same thing in other countries. Product choices. Direct product extension means no changes in the product. There are no extra R&D or manufacturing costs because you're piggybacking. Product adaptation means the product changes to meet local market needs and legal requirements. Product changes range from regional to city levels. And again, this is done through market research. Marketing research helps you understand what you need to change in order to be, in sync with the local needs. Backward product invention takes a discontinued product from one market and introduces it into another. That's really clever. You could take, in other words, if you look at the product life cycle of a product, let's say in America, it could be going down and it's declined. You send it somewhere else in an emerging market and boom, it starts all over again. Forward product invention creates new products for new markets that, again, based on marketing research, they create a new product for that market because they know there'll be a tremendous need for that. Let's look at some of the consumer issues. Quality is viewed differently around the world. The perception of quality varies drastically around the world, which makes it hard for a company developing or adapting a product for a global market. What works in one country may fail in another. Cell phone manufacturers have learned in Europe, Japan, and the US, cell phones must have a roaming capability to be successful, but Chinese consumers do not consider it as an important feature. Why? Because maybe they don't care. In their country, their service is good enough. They don't need that roaming capability. And China, by the way, is very advanced with cell phone technology. Fitting the product, language differences have created unique and occasional humorous examples of marketing mistakes. When Coca-Cola introduced Diet Coke in Japan, initial sales were disappointing until the company realized that Japanese women do not like the concept of dieting. Okay, and the Japanese culture relates dieting to sickness. Okay, it's a problem. You got to be careful. Brand strategy. Companies often seek to create a unified branding strategy around the world. In some cases, this is effective, such as in Coca-Cola, Caterpillar, Apple, Kellogg, BMW, have created a powerful global brand. As companies acquire local brands, one of the first decisions is whether to fold a local brand into a global brand or leave it alone. This next slide is a mess. International channel structure. I never like these kinds of slides. This looks like a weather chart, more like a slide over here. But you have the home country, domestic producer or marketer sells to or through an exporter to outside. You'll have open distribution through domestic wholesale, the middleman. Then you'll have the exporter. The importer takes from the exporter. Then this foreign agent or merchant wholesaler, and of course the foreign retailer. And these lines, these arrows are super, super dizzying. I mean, I'm just getting dizzy looking at the slide. But again, don't get fixated on the slide. It's not so, it's not the end of the world to follow every single arrow. Just get the general concept of how the domestic product ends up in a foreign consumer's hands and all the different middlemen. Focus on the blue squares in the middle. Channel factors include cost, capital control, coverage, character, and the continuity of getting the product to market. It's so important. Now, let's look at continuity over here. Changing a distribution system creates anxiety amongst customers and gives competitors an opportunity to take advantage of inefficiencies and disruptions of service. If there's no continuity in the channel, your competition will eat you alive. You do not want to have that problem. Character is the long-term nature of channel decisions, makes character an issue in selecting the best channel partner possible. Okay, I'm just trying to move quickly because I'm running out of space on my phone, so forgive me. I'm not going to read everything on the bottom. Marketing, communication, advertising, global marketing themes, adjusting only the color or language to local market conditions. Global marketing with local content, again, keeps the same global marketing theme as the home market, but adapts it with local content to make it more relevant. Basket of global advertising themes. Here, what you have is basically what you have here is related but distinct ads built around several marketing messages are generated often by the company's lead advertising agency, and they have these several messages to kind of get all the different types of people living there into the product. And of course, you got local marketing ads, which are very, very popular. You see that anytime you go outside of your home and you go to a hotel, let's say in Pennsylvania, you'll see a lot of local ads of places that don't exist in New York, especially like with cars. When I go upstate New York, you'll have Middletown Ford. There's no Middletown Ford in Brooklyn, but because you're upstate New York, you see ads for them. Other marketing communications, personal selling, sales promotion, of course, PR, which is basically expansion of global communication, has greatly increased the importance of international public relations, especially when you have a product safety issue that you need to speak to and to allay people's fears. Pricing. With a one worldwide price, the company assigns one price for its product in every global market. Examples include oil and diamonds. A local market condition price reflects the responses to competitors in the local area. A cost-based price does not reflect local conditions and is based on cost plus final markup. So there's a certain level of markup that you have to add to the cost. Now, just thinking of cost for a second, the way to be very, very competitive with cost is to be very careful and purchase things cheaply. In other words, better than everyone else does. Spend less on your input and then retain most of your profit, which is super important. Price escalation. Okay, you have tariffs, import fees and taxes, which is what destroys exporters many times and importers, because depending on what side that you are on. Exchange rate fluctuations can really, really damage things, especially when there's hyperinflation. And middlemen and transportation costs. They also are very, very expensive, and many times you have to, that's why the internet is amazing, because the internet gets around middlemen. There is no middleman. It goes straight to the people that are buying things. Global pricing issues. Dumping refers to the practice of charging less than actual cost or less than the product price in the company's home markets. So they're basically losing, but it's a game of attrition. Who bleeds whom? Gray marketing involves the unauthorized diversion of branded products into global markets. Gray marketers, distributors who are often authorized distributors, divert products from low price to high price markets. So again, this involves the authorized diversion of branded products into global markets. Companies should be carefully watch order patterns among their distributors, because that could signal a gray market problem, which is a way of derailing and destabilizing things. Now,
wait, I don't get what gray market is. Can you give an example, please?
Yeah, let's do one of these. I'm just gonna pause this for a minute, just to basically to define what gray marketing is the unauthorized sale of intellectual property. In other words, it's a legitimate product. It's not a counterfeit product, but there is an unauthorized sale of that. So ethics are at the core of successful marketing management. Ethical leadership, culture, and policies are essential for ethical decision making. An example of ethical issues is Volkswagen with its emission reporting issues. Perhaps we'll watch a video on that shortly. Ethics in marketing is key to establishing and maintaining customer relationships. Let's move on to the next slide as we're running out of time on my phone. I have about 6 minutes left. Ethics in the value proposition. Value equals benefits divided by price. That is the mathematical definition of that. How customers view a company's ethics is key in evaluating the value proposition. Because if a company is not acting ethically, it'll impact the value that is being proposed by the company. So if Volkswagen is playing around with emissions, it's going to hurt its market presence. Once trust is broken, it is very difficult to get it back. Look at Wells Fargo opening up fake bank accounts to make sales and commissions. You had Johnson & Johnson with talcum powder being linked to ovarian cancer. These are major issues, and it's strange because Johnson & Johnson was very honest in the 1980s with its Tylenol scandal. Ethics and elements of the marketing mix. U.S. marketing research data that ensures privacy and confidentiality. But you have issues just with research data. Just look at Google. They got into trouble with sharing people's information. So within the marketing mix, define market segments that do not discriminate against any particular segment. You don't want that. Develop products that are safe and select materials that are not harmful to users. You don't want to have a talcum powder situation with ovarian cancer we just mentioned before. Manufacture products using materials that are safe for users in conditions that are safe for employees. Clearly define and honor warranties and service agreements. Talking about safety for employees, Apple got into a whole bunch of trouble a couple of years ago because of an unsafe plant in China. Moving on, ethics and elements of price. Disclose the full price to customers before purchase. Do not engage in unethical pricing practices such as price discrimination, charging one person differently than another, price fixing, which basically hurts competition, or predatory pricing, where you go around, dumping stuff and just destroying the local economy. Fully disclose any or other bundled pricing before customers purchase. All the little charges. Make sure that people understand what they're buying. Make sure they're buying what they need. Ethics, more on ethics. Unfair pressure should not be put on channel members, people in the distribution channel, all the way from the beginning to end. Should not have any pressure to sell things that they don't necessarily want to sell. Channel members should not use manipulative sales techniques on other channel members. Data privacy. No channel member should exert undue pressure on customers to purchase products that are unnecessary or not needed. Very, very important. No deception or misrepresentation should occur in any marketing communication to any stakeholder, and high pressure or manipulative sales techniques. You don't like that. How many of you hate to walk into a store that forces you, or like, hey, do you want to buy this? And you'll see this many times in the cell phone stores. You walk in, they want to sell you every single thing that you could attach to your cell phone that you don't necessarily need. Or they'll make you buy some sort of ballistic glass cover on your cell phone, and you don't need it. A simple glass cover that you can get on Amazon for a quarter of the price will suffice. I don't want to name any brands because I don't want to be on go on YouTube. But once I shut off the camera, I'll give you an example. Code of marketing ethics. Most companies today create a code of ethics that defines the company's values. The American Marketing Association's Code of Ethics refers to 6 values: honesty, responsibility, fairness, respect, transparency, and of course, citizenship, being nice to everyone around you. Let's talk about sustainability, right and the good strategy, doing well by doing good. Be nice to the world. Be nice to the environment. Environmental laws grew out of the Great Depression. The Green Movement. Now, I know there's much talk about it, but it makes sense to make sure that the world is sustainable, that you keep the environment healthy, because we need an environment. We live on a planet. We can't destroy it. Today's sustainability includes issues like an educated workforce, greater connection and support to local communities, and linking policies and strategy to those. Slide 39 basically is a triple bottom line stakeholders. In Chapter 1, we identified the various groups called marketing stakeholders that interact with or are impacted by marketing as they are to understanding the triple bottom line. These stakeholders are shown in Exhibit 2.13, originally represented by John Ellington in his book Cannibals with Forks. The triple bottom line of the 21st century business brings accountability to the various interests of marketing business stakeholders. The traditional approach, financial accounting, was used for shareholders. They were the main people. But what about customers, suppliers, and government agencies? That's the triple bottom line that we need to look at. And the last slide basically has all the elements of it. You could look at it over here. You have profit. You have socioeconomic. Your responsibility is to create jobs, enhance skills, social investment, sustainability of the environment, eco-efficiency, value chain resource efficiency. Value chain is getting everything from the product inception all the way down to the customer, and making sure everything is efficient, take care of the planet, the socio-environment, safety and health, environmental crisis mitigation and management. So you're looking at the profit, which is important, the people, and the planet. Those are your 3 elements in your triple bottom line. Okay, we just made it with the